people asked me during the break, what happens next. The applicant is still in the midst of presenting their case in chief, talking to the chair and the board. It's our expectation that we'll probably conclude the hearing tonight at 9 o'clock and then continue it to a date certain at a future date, which we'll announce before the end of the hearing tonight. I know you've got Mr. Gibbons, who's
Yes.
traffic?
No, civil engineering.
Civil engineering, okay.
So Dave, I believe you need to be sworn.
Just for the testimony you're about to give of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you. Your name, I'm sorry.
Could I interrupt? I'm sorry, John.
No problem.
A few people have trickled in after the start of the hearing. At the beginning of the hearing, we asked anyone who wanted to become a party, you've got to present yourself and ask to have party status, and there's a form to fill out. If there's anyone who wants to do so, you can do that now or at the beginning of the next hearing. Is there anyone? Mr. Rhodes?
Yeah, you got a form?
The form.
You need to take the mic and state your name and address and all that.
It's right behind
Behind
you.
you. So, yeah.
Do you state your name and address for the record? And
Okay, my name is Clarence Rhodes III, 2176 Strasburg Road, East Fallowfield Township, 19320. All right?
And do you know approximately how far away you are from this property? Yeah, this property.
Well, I would say as a crow's flies, but I would say around 5 or 6 miles.
Okay.
All right?
Does the
But I'm
applicant,
very familiar with Timberpool Road and Mount Palmer Road. Thank you.
Attorney Jaros, do you have any questions for Mr. Rhodes?
No, but based on Mr. Rhodes' description of how far away he is from the property, I would propose the same objection as to party status.
Well, that's nice of you, but I am also a taxpayer in the township, and I do have relatives that live over there and who could not come out here tonight, so,
So just to reiterate what we said earlier in this hearing,
speak up.
yep, just to reiterate what we said earlier in this hearing, you and Attorney Jaros will both have the opportunity to submit something in writing at the end of tonight's hearing and before the next hearing as to why you feel you're entitled to party status, and then the board can rule on your getting party status at the beginning of next hearing.
Thank you.
So you have that opportunity.
Well, I stated to him, I was also the supervisor at that time when a lot of this construction was started and talked about. So that's one reason why I would want to be able to speak.
Okay.
If I was a supervisor, that means I represented everybody in the township. Thank you.
I'm sorry for interrupting it, Mr. Jaros.
Not a
Back to you.
problem. Dave, are you employed, and if so, by whom?
D.L. Howell Associates.
And have you been accepted as an expert civil engineer in this township or nearby surrounding townships?
I have, yes.
Have we marked a copy of your curriculum vitae as applicant's exhibit A4 in our package?
Yes.
I believe the board may be familiar with D.L. Howell Associates. I don't know if you're directly familiar with Mr. Gibbons, but I would offer him as our expert civil engineer on the project.
Mr. Gibbons, can you just state your background in civil engineering?
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Science from Penn State University in Civil Engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer since 2008, I believe. I've been doing land developments in Chester County for 12 years now.
Does anyone have any questions as to Mr. Gibbons' qualifications as a professional engineer and a civil engineer? Okay, seeing none, I think it'd be appropriate to have him recognized as an expert civil engineer.
Thank you. Now, Dave, can you explain your role in this project and how far back you or your firm have been involved in the application?
Sure. As I just said, I'm the site civil engineer for the project, and we've been engaged, I believe, since around 2002 for this project.
So if you've been involved, or your firm has been involved since 2002, approximately 14 years?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Have we marked as applicant's exhibit A3, which is on the board behind you, a copy of the Chesco View aerial photograph of the site?
That's correct.
Have you, at my direction, tried to impose the proposed development on that aerial view of the property?
We have, yes.
Could you, using that, please explain the current site as it lays out its location in the township and surrounding properties.
Sure, referring to Exhibit A3, as previously testified, the property is roughly 108 acres. It is in the western portion of the township. It fronts along two streets, frontage on the west side at Temecula Road, and on the east side along Mount Carmel Road.
Could you please identify any environmentally sensitive areas of the property where they're located and how they may be impacting the proposed development, if at all?
Sure, there are a few areas of moderately and prohibitive steep slopes, in addition to a few pockets of woodlands on the site. They're primarily located along the western side of the property, coming down along the southwest, and then also along the southern line of the property, and then there's also some pockets of woodlands in the existing developed area of the site.
And is there any direct development proposed in those particular areas?
There is not, with exception to the expansion of the existing developed area, which some trees will be taken down, yes.
And is there any prohibition, to your knowledge, in taking those trees down as part of constructing the road?
No.
Is the property located in any flood hazard zone, and if so, can you explain that?
There is actually a portion of the property in the flood hazard zone. It is in the southwestern corner of the site, where Buck Run crosses through the corner of the property.
And I assume then, that leads to my next question, are there any natural streams or water courses on the property? And if so, are we impacting them at all?
There is, and no, we're not.
Have we previously marked as applicants Exhibit A5, A through G, the 7-sheet conditional use plan dated July 12, 2016 for the project?
That's correct.
Were you or your office responsible for preparing those plan sheets?
Yes.
Now, Dave, using any one of those plan sheets that you would, and if you do, please identify it for the record. Again, perhaps describe the overall site plan and how, explain the existing structures on the property first.
Sure, referring to Exhibit A5A, the existing developed portion is located on the eastern side of the property, where Fellowship Drive enters off of Mount Carmel Road. As it heads west into the site, there is a cluster of buildings and developed area, and I believe it's been testified to, but there's a garage, a pavilion, a camp kitchen, a bathhouse, and a mausoleum.
And are those structures called out as existing structures with associated square footage on your plan?
Yes.
Could you just briefly, I know Chuck may have referred to a couple square footages, I'd just like you to describe for the record the existing structures and their associated square footage.
The existing buildings at 1,270, the existing mausoleum at 1,116. I guess, that is it?
And are those the only structures currently existing on the property?
That's correct.
And is it true that the rest of the property remains undeveloped in agricultural land or natural state currently?
Yes.
Now, Dave, perhaps starting from the right side of the site plan as you would enter off of Mount Carmel Road into the proposed Fellowship Drive, please take the Board of Supervisors through the proposed improvements for the community, starting with the religious or institutional land uses closest to Mount Carmel Road, and then proceed through with the remainder of the tract.
So once we enter off of Mount Carmel Road, we head west, and as we travel roughly, let's say about 1,000 feet, we have our proposed parking area and a proposed house of worship slash rectory. That building is 25,000 square feet currently on the plan, and there is 89 parking spaces proposed. We also have a proposed maintenance building and a proposed garage that will be located, I would say, generally southwest of the house of worship, and that is a 600 square foot maintenance building and a 3,300 square foot maintenance garage or garage.
I'm sorry, the proposed place of worship slash rectory would be?
25,000 square feet?
So is it true then that for the total of existing and proposed institutional religious structures, that will be 31,286 square feet more or less?
That's correct.
Now, does the applicant propose, you did mention this, associated parking with the religious institutional uses? If so, how many spaces and how are they configured?
There is a parking lot for 89 spaces. The township ordinance requires, 12 spaces per 1,000 square feet of floor area in the main assembly room. And we have 7,000 square foot main assembly room, which would equal 84 spaces per the township requirements, and we have 89.
So, in your opinion, are we compliant with the religious institutional uses being proposed in that portion of the property with the proposed parking?
Yes.
Now, as we proceed west into the property, can you please describe the layout of the proposed residential lots and how they will be configured?
Yes, as we head west, referring to Exhibit A5A, we travel maybe another 800 or 900 feet of roadway, and then we enter the residential area, which has approximately 1,500 linear feet of roadway for 23 single-family lots that are at a minimum of 30,000 square feet, which is 0.69 acres.
And these, to your understanding, the homes will be single-family homes, 1 or 2 story, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And you said the lots on which those homes will exist are all approximately, give or take a couple square feet, 30,000 square feet each for 0.69 acres?
That's correct.
These lots will be served by on-site septic, correct?
Yes,
And the lots will also be served by on-site wells, correct?
correct.
Can you explain how these systems will function, where they will be located?
Sure, the on-lot wells will all be located actually on the lot, and then the majority of on-lot septic systems, which will, there'll be both a primary and a secondary system in case of replacement, will be located on the lots, with the exception of a handful of systems that will be located just off the back of the lot due to space requirements.
And those secondary systems will in fact have to carry some type of easement area or some type of defined area?
Absolutely, yes.
Now, the roadway that's proposed is a cul-de-sac configuration, correct?
Correct.
That roadway, are we calling that Fellowship Drive?
I guess it could be an extension of Fellowship Drive.
Okay. That roadway into the site, is that a 50-foot right-of-way?
Yes, it is.
And what is the proposed cartway width?
It is an 18-foot wide cartway width with rolled curb on both sides.
Now, the cul-de-sac configuration is located where you have it proposed with an emergency entrance out to Timokula Road, correct?
Correct?
What type of construction is proposed for the emergency entrance?
Currently proposed pursuant to the conversation this morning with Mr. Ginty and the fire marshal, we will be proposing a stone or gravel emergency access that'll be 20 feet wide.
And your understanding, as Mr. Ginty testified to, is that will be used for emergency access only, correct?
Correct.
Is Fellowship Drive, or the proposed extension of Fellowship Drive, proposed to be a private drive?
It is, yes.
And will that be owned by the homeowners association,
Yes, it will.
to your understanding?
Yes.
And also maintained by the homeowners association?
Correct.
Will the proposed road be constructed in accordance with East Fallowfield Township requirements and standards?
It will, yes.
Can you please explain to the Board of Supervisors the proposed method of stormwater management for the site?
Sure. While we haven't done a full stormwater design, we will be completing that during the land development process. We have roughly determined areas where we want stormwater to work, and we have performed several tests out in each location and have determined that infiltration rates are well beyond acceptable, and we have no concerns with getting the stormwater to work with the township and state requirements.
And I assume you make that preliminary judgment about the capability of the site to handle stormwater based on the proposed impervious coverage?
That's correct.
Dave, I just want to be clear, and I think you've added a note to this effect, note 14, that this project is being developed under the East Fallowfield Township ordinances which govern development in the township on the date the application was accepted by the township. In other words, February 2nd, 2000, is that correct?
That's correct.
And have you prepared a gross tract area and listed square footage and acreage of areas devoted to various uses.
I had, yes.
Now, this gets a bit monotonous, I'll admit, but again, we're making a record. I ask for you to please read in the acreage requirements associated with the proposed development, starting with the gross tract area.
Yes, no problem. I'm gonna read it off in acres, just to keep it simple. Simple as it can be. The gross tract area is 108.383 acres. And we have areas of existing and proposed rights-of-way. The Mount Carmel Road existing right-of-way is 0.123 acres. The existing entrance lane has 0.412 acres. The road extension to the lots will take up 1.223 acres. The road section with the lots will be 1.960 acres. We have an emergency access right-of-way or easement associated with the emergency access, which will be 0.349 acres. And the Temecula Road right-of-way is 0.347 acres. That leaves a total area of right-of-ways to be 4.414 acres. We have designated 4.694 acres to the religious use areas, and then 2.142 acres for the cemetery use. Residential use will take up 15.897 acres, for a total developed area of 27.082 acres, leaving 81.301 acres for agricultural area.
Just to repeat then, Dave, the total developed acreage of the site as proposed is what?
27.082,
And leaving remaining undeveloped area of how much?
81.301.
Did you prepare a zoning data tabulation with specified area and bulk calculations?
I did.
Again, I apologize for the monotony, but in support of creating the record we're creating, I ask that you please go through the zoning data tabulation and specify the required area and bulk calculations and the proposed area and bulk calculations.
Sure, this is referring to section 1704.12H, which is the area and bulk regulations, and this pertains to the single-family residences. The minimum lot area required is 30,000 square feet. We're proposing a minimum of 30,000 square feet. The minimum lot width at the setback line is 125 feet. We are proposing 125 feet. The minimum lot width at the street line is 50 feet. Our minimum is 92.4 feet. The minimum front yard setback is 50 feet. We are proposing 51 currently. Side yards are 20 feet. The houses shown on the plan have 25.6 feet. And the rear yard required is 50 feet, when the homes shown on the plan are at 100.9 feet. The maximum lot coverage is 20%. Allowed, what we have shown on the plan is around 13.7%. The maximum building height is 35 feet. We're proposing to be 35 feet or less. And the maximum impervious coverage, and this is for the entire tract, is 10%, and we are at 5.89%.
And density as proposed is compliant, is it not?
That's correct.
So Dave, and then in your opinion as an expert civil engineer, when you apply all the requisite area and bulk requirements to this planned institutional community as we have proposed it in that particular exhibit, we are compliant with those regulations and area and bulk requirements, are we not?
That's correct.
Can you identify the two waivers to be requested should this conditional use application be approved and we move forward with land development?
I can. The first waiver is from section 603C and is requested to permit an increase in the maximum cul-de-sac length, which is required to be 1,000 feet. The second waiver is from section 615B and that is to not provide sidewalks along new roads.
And those two sections, you're referring to the township subdivision and land development ordinance, were you not?
Yes.
And they are requirements that are often suggested by that ordinance, but can be waived by the township board of supervisors through land development should they so choose, is that correct?
Correct.
I know with respect to the length of cul-de-sac, that was specifically contemplated in the settlement agreement that we referred to earlier in the evening, was it not?
Yes.
To your knowledge, was the other with respect to sidewalks, was that mentioned? I don't know if it was.
I don't believe so.
Okay. I note that there are some blocks in the lower right-hand corner of sheet 1 of the conditional use overall site plan, and I ask you to please reference those for a moment on the record to be sure we haven't missed anything.
Sure, those blocks are, they're blocked notes, and they're generally referring to the septic systems, and I can just read through them for you.
Please.
We have a prime agricultural soils note that just notes that there are prime agricultural soils currently on site. We have an adjoining property setback and well note, which states, to the best of our knowledge, there are no existing sewage systems or wells located within 100 feet of the subject tract boundary. We have a disposal field easement note, which says all sewage disposal fields located outside the lot in which is to be served shall be contained within a blanket easement, which shall cover both the disposal field and the associated lateral. Concrete monuments shall be placed at the corner of the applicable disposal fields as shown on the plans herein. And that is what I referred to earlier, where I'd say a handful of septic systems are located just outside the actual residential lot, and which they need to be in an easement. We have a system stakeout note, which says all proposed septic systems shall be staked out prior to permitting for the individual system. And we have a proposed sewage flows note, which is standard, that states proposed sewage flow for the house of worship and rectory is 800 gallons per day. Proposed sewage flow associated with individual residences is 400 gallons per day per residence, and that's standard for this size house with an on-lot septic system.
Did you have a chance to review the general standards and criteria for conditional use approval under the applicable township zoning ordinance in effect at the time the application was filed, i.e. section 2007.3 of the zoning ordinance at that time?
Yes, I have.
I am probably going to ask you to come back and state with a little more specificity your opinion with respect to each one, but I'm going to ask you now, generally, do you have an opinion as to whether or not, in your respective field, the proposed development complies with those applicable standards and criteria?
Yes, I do.
And what is that opinion?
In my personal opinion, this development does comply with those standards in my respective field.
And is there anything from a civil engineering perspective that we did not cover that you wanted to make plain to the Board of Supervisors?
I think we hit everything.
Mr. Crotty, those are all the questions I have on direct for Mr. Gibbons at this time.
Board, any questions? Mr. Gibbons?
I do. In regards to the institutional area with the parking, does that fall in the Act 167, or does that fall back for stormwater management at all, or is that underneath all?
In my opinion, I believe we need to meet all Act 167.
So everything's Act 167?
Yes.
Okay. And then, my question is based upon recent years of fires and developments we've had too, and two different developments. Is there a hydrant or anything in this community for fire trucks to tap into for potential fires to put out a home? Or?
I don't believe so with the wells. I don't think there will be any kind of hydrant that's placed there.
Okay.
I think the only other way to do it would be like a water tower.
Okay. In regards to the septics, do they have leach fields at all, or anything like that? I'm not sure what type of septic systems.
Well, I think they all vary. It all depends on the soil and the testing. Some I do believe some will be sand mounds and some may be in-ground systems, but that detail hasn't fully been worked out yet. I think it's designed at the time of building the house.
Mr. Ginchi mentioned something about Chester County has looked into the wells potential for this. Can you talk more to that, or?
I understand from his testimony that we have done a water study, a water impact study, but from my understanding is that study is done preliminarily to make sure that this can go forward and shouldn't have problems. But ultimately, the next step is to get a well permit with the health department when each lot gets built. We go through that process.
And from your best understanding, would that be underneath current standards as far as gallons per minute, or would it be underneath old standards at that time?
I'm pretty sure it'd be new standards.
New standards.
You know, when was that water study done?
It was done in 2009, for conditional use in that.
So you'd be doing another one as part of the land development process?
If that's required by the ordinance, we would.
Do you have backup plans if they come in and the wells just aren't possible on, say, half of the plots? I mean, what do we?
We wouldn't get the use and occupancy, we wouldn't be able to build the lot. So, like, if you can't get a well to work, then you gotta figure out how to get water in
We
there.
can't hear your answer in the back.
I'm sorry. I said that if you can't get a well to work, you won't get your use and occupancy permit, so you wouldn't be able to build the house. So at that point, you'd need to find another way to get water.
Question. Says here that sidewalks may be required on both sides of the street in subdivisions and land developments where curbs are required. So, sidewalks may be required only on one side of the street in subdivisions or land developments. If there are residential or commercial lots on only one side of the street, what is the hardship with the sidewalks?
I don't believe it's a hardship, and I think Mr. Ginty can speak to whether he feels the community needs sidewalks or not. It was a waiver from subdivision land development, and I think that the applicant wanted to request that and speak to the board and the planning commission on how they felt about sidewalks. And Chuck, if you want to weigh in on that.
We didn't feel they were necessary because it was a small community, and we were going to have paths from the community down to the institutional area. So we didn't feel like it was necessary. The engineer's time, Kenny Howell engineer worked with previously, they didn't feel that they were necessary. It was just too much concrete. We wanted to keep it more grass, more rural.
Do you mean like a stone path or a dirt path or just?
Coming from the community, some type of path for people to be able to walk from the community to the institutional buildings without having to go on the roads. And we just hadn't reached that point to determine if it was going to be stone. I probably prefer stone, like small crushed stones you see in the parks rather than asphalt.
How did we reach the .69 acre lot versus the 1 acre lot that the township only required for our one?
Well, the section of the zoning ordinance which I read, I have here somewhere. Section 1704-12H, which is the area and bulk requirements for a single-family home, under those ordinances required a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet, which is .69 acres.
Is there any current wells in the institutional area with the buildings that are being stated over there now?
I believe there's two.
Yeah, there's actually 3 wells there.
3 wells?
Yeah.
Stand corrected.
Do you know the gallons per minute with those wells?
Yes, one of them is at 20 gallons per minute.
20, okay.
Another one is at 5 gallons per minute. I think the other two are around 5 gallons per minute.
5 gallons per minute.
They're 400 feet deep because we needed them in a specific place up on the top of the hill, so we got 5 gallons per minute.
Given the potential of the development, I'm not seeing a toddler's lot or anything like that, if there were to be more children. Is there any plans for anything?
We do, I mean, we do have an area down here in the institutional area that's called as a future playground. We do have reserved an area there,
Okay.
so I think that's their plans.
There's also between lot 19 and 18, there's a V. We'd like to make that a playground too. Or a park area.
Is there any plans for streetlights